Okay, here we are. Personal trainer talk with Mr. Doug Blake, the man, the myth, the legend, and Corey Ritter from Body Design University. We are here with another big list of questions. This is going to be a awesome talk, and got a great lineup. As always, Mr. Johnny Gonzalez is going to join us and help out and throw some pitches. Also, anyone out there in the group, any personal trainers that have questions about starting your personal training business or operating your personal training business, there should be a link somewhere where you can click and join us. You're more than welcome to. We'd love to have a conversation with you. But we are going to get this thing started in just a little bit. Mr. Blake,
I think I got it.
What's going on, big guy?
I think I got it handled.
What do you have handled?
I got my marker, got a marker, and I got a whiteboard if we need it.
Oh man.
I just, that's how I roll. I just decided,
All right.
why
So
not?
check this out. I have a feeling that maybe one of these questions that we get from Mr. Gonzalez will need a
Require
whiteboard.
that?
Yes. So Mr. Blake,
Yes, sir.
are you excited about some of the new information that you're working on?
Oh yeah. Yes, sir. We've got, if you don't know already, we have a redo upgrade. What do you want to call it? Redo upgrade on the course. Not only the presentation style, but the information has been upgraded. We've got a lot of new material as well. Module 5 has an entirely new lesson. We have scoured through every single module, and we have seen those parts that needed to be upgraded a little bit and added what needed to be added to provide the highest level of service and information to our students. How's that?
It's all right. I mean, it was right there. You were right there. That's awesome. Listen, the meat and the potatoes is really simple. Doug and we are releasing some updates that are literally going to help you get better results with your clients and also help you make a better living by serving people. That's really it. It's all about how can we constantly improve the service that we provide to the clients that count on us. And so we have some material that we're updating in the course, as they say. I don't know how it can get much better, but it is going to get much better. Check out some of our latest reviews at bodydesignu.com/reviews. We literally have posted, we've got dozens and dozens of new reviews that have received recently. We've posted those on there. Pretty cool. But we are also very excited because we are like 4 days away from our next live course here in Atlanta, Georgia, helping personal trainers not only pass their NASM or ACE exam, but even more importantly, run and start their career as a personal trainer. And so we have a live session where we help trainers build confidence, learn all kinds of new skills from training demos to field trips to phone time to business, drills that we're going to do. It's really pretty cool. We're excited about that. And I think we have a full house. So every seat in the room is going to be full.
Pretty much.
Doug, are you excited about that or what?
Did you use the word drills?
You like that?
That was excellent.
Drills. Yeah. I think you've told me before, like I should, if I didn't get into fitness, that
you could have been something in the military for sure. I'm thinking. I was unsure about whether it was like a general.
I don't think they'd let me in, but
a general or.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Command Sergeant Major. I'm not sure which you would have fit into which role, but either you would have been successful no matter what.
I'd want a platoon. I would want a platoon. Is a platoon bigger than a brigade or is a brigade? I know. I'm sorry.
Goodness.
And my grandfather served many, many years. I think it was 24 years in the Army. And then after that, he got contracted with the Department of Defense for, I don't know how long. Dad, if you're watching this, pipe in, tell us. I don't know. I know it was a long time, but I think altogether it was over 30 years that he served in the Army.
Excellent.
So, all right. Well, oh man, it was awesome seeing Nadia too. I mean,
Yep. Yeah, it
how
was.
she's growing into a woman that is making things happen is just, it's pretty
Oh
cool.
yeah. Yep.
It's pretty
Yep.
cool. And the
Yeah, it
Army
was.
won. And the Army won the game.
And Army won. That's right. That's right. So that's good. That's good. Who did they play?
Oh
Was it
my gosh.
Georgia
Georgia
State or
State. Yeah, Georgia State University. And they won. So Doug's daughter, who's currently going to West Point, came into the town, and the family came up from Florida. It was just a great time.
Yeah, it
Quick
was. Great
weekend.
weekend. Great weekend.
And the Army won. So go Army. Okay, let's get the show on the road, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this personal trainer talk. If you have questions, please click the link. You could join us if you'd like to ask those questions on this broadcast. If not, you can type it in the chat. You can also, what else can you do? You can click bodydesignU.com/ask. And if you haven't seen it, our new website has launched. I think it's been a week and a half ago, but it's really, really pretty cool. It's very fast. It's got a lot of current updated information. I would show you, but I don't know. I'd be afraid that I wouldn't get back to the screen. So go check it out, bodydesignU.com. Guys, we are helping more trainers around the U.S. in, I think, 12 different countries right now too, than we expected. And we'd like you to be a part of it. So let's go and get started. All right. So let's see here. Mr. Johnny Gonzalez, I see him in there with us. Fantastic. First question is basically going to come from Chelsea Lowe. What does it mean to apply shearing forces in terms of a joint in motion?
Ooh.
Yeah. So she's asking this question from in our ACE personal training group. So this question is coming from the ACE personal trainer study group. So guessing that she's just getting started, likely just studying for the exam. Doug,
right.
What do you got for her?
Yeah, it's a good question. Really, it's more the term shearing that catches people, right? So when we're talking about mechanics and physics, right? So mechanics is a subsection of of physics as an academic model or entity of information. We look at mechanics and how joints, for instance, in the human body interact with each other. So a joint is basically where two bony segments, either two bones or multiple bony segments, come together. Now, if there is movement, not every joint has movement associated. We normally talk about joints like the elbow and the ankle and the knee as being those type of movable joints versus the joints in your head, right? So these are these joints, the cranium, right? The bones, they stick together, right? And then they never move ever again. But my elbow joint can move. And so there are what we call articulating surfaces. So we generally have one area, one part of the bone and another part of the bone, and they come together. And since there's movement associated, the contact between those two articulating surfaces create different forces. There are compressional forces. Most people understand compression, right? If I take if you take your fists and you squeeze them together, those are compressional forces. Shearing forces are those type of forces where there is opposing motion between articulating surfaces. So if I do compressional forces like this, a shearing force, let's see if I can do this so you can see it. A shearing force would be like this. So you see opposing movements. We see this in the San Andreas Fault. How's that for a segue into geology, right? So shearing forces is when there is opposing motion between two articulating surfaces. Normally what we talk about is that during open kinetic chain movements where the hands are moving in relation to a stationary proximal point on the body, that there's going to be more, quote, shearing forces, because the articulating surfaces, the joints themselves, are going to have this opposing motion related to it. There's always shearing forces in joints. Always. As long as there's movement, there's rolling, there's gliding, but there's also this what we call translational forces that creates this opposing movement, and that could be potentially damaging to the joint but not necessarily all the time. So that's what shearing forces are. It's just when there's opposing translational movement between the articulating surfaces. It occurs in almost every joint in the body. Depends on the type of exercise you're doing. The more resistance you have on particular exercises, the greater are going to be the shearing forces, simply because of the torque that is generated. So
gotcha. Awesome. Let me ask you this, Doug. What would be an example question that you think that ACE would ask, and how they would apply that term, shearing forces?
Right. So they would ask a question such as, during name the exercise. It would be an open or closed kinetic chain. As during a bench press or during a dumbbell chest press, at the shoulder, you would encounter these type of forces, except A, shearing forces, B, compressional forces, gliding forces, and you would have to answer the question and know that because it's an open kinetic chain movement, it's probably going to have shearing and compressional forces, and then they would have some other term in there that would not make any sense. They could also ask a question such as, during a push-up, which is a closed kinetic chain movement where we see greater compressional forces at those joints, you might get a question such as, shearing forces are most noted at or in this type of exercise, and they would give you 3 open kinetic chain or 3 closed kinetic chain exercises and 1 open, something like that. You'd have to know that closed kinetic chain exercises tend to have greater compressional forces versus shearing forces. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's great. Awesome. Chelsea, I hope that was helpful. That is how the term would be used, or not only explained, but used in the questioning. So good stuff. Okay, next one comes to us from Demi Shooks. Demi Shooks from Ocean City, Maryland. I heard you guys talk about having free coffee last week for your clients. Should I be doing that or giving another product out for free in order to help retain my clients better?
Wow, free coffee.
I don't remember that. Did we say that last week?
I don't know. I like
Demi,
the idea.
Demi,
maybe, I used to, I think we were talking about when I was running the wellness center up in Titusville.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. Yep.
It was a terrible great idea.
It's funny. So many of our ideas too, that like we, in concept, they actually, it's like the concept car, like beautiful. Wow. That's such a great idea. But then when you roll them out, not so much. And especially when you have to take it away because you've got people that abuse it. And it's so funny that happens, like the human condition, right? Doug, me and you talk about this all the time, is that, sometimes you do something meaning for it to really work. The coffee, you offer that to the members, and next thing you know, you got people coming in with gallon jugs, and they're depleting, the coffee, and then other members aren't getting the coffee. Then you're having to order more coffee. Then you have to have staff making more coffee. There's all these things associated. Yeah, exactly. And I did the same thing recently. This was, actually at the studio not too long ago, where we provided coffee, not just, it wasn't for the members, actually for the team members. But there was a constant mess from the coffee. So the person would make coffee, would not clean up the pot afterwards. It was left in there for multiple days. It was just, and so in concept, sometimes things, they work really well, but then when you apply them, it's different. To answer your question, Demi, yes, the recommendation that I would provide to you, and there's several, as far as people always like something for free in business in general, they do. They like something for free. I don't like inventory. I wouldn't recommend doing anything that requires inventory. At one time, I did these fitness t-shirts, and they were a big hit, and the members loved them. But, half of them walked out the door. So when a new member joined, a new client would join, they'd get to pick a t-shirt. And then if they wanted another one, or any of the other existing clients wanted one, they'd have to pay, it was like $25 for these shirts. Well, they ended up walking out the door, keeping track of the inventory. And what I found is it was actually more of a hassle than anything. And so I don't like things with inventory. The idea that I currently employ is, service related things. So like nutrition coaching that you provide, that and you do it in a way that you pretty much, under promise and over deliver, where, you talk about how they can get help with nutrition, but then you proactively reach out to them at least once a week to make sure that they're dialed in. We use MyFitnessPal for our nutrition coaching. And so that's something that you can do. Doesn't require inventory. It's free. Generally, a lot of personal training clients don't expect that level of service. We also do a free workout, which is a community workout. We've been doing it for a long time now, called Cardio Blast. And there's no inventory. But when a member joins the studio, we tell them, look, every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, you get a free workout. So you can train 3 days a week, 2 days a week, or 1 day a week. Plus, you get this free fat burning workout. And most of the clients, their goal is to lose body fat. And so we do that. And it's something that we do it for the community anyhow. So we bring people together, and, they seem to really like that. So answer your question. Yes. Do something for free. Give them a recipe, once a month, give them, more tips on their meal plan, whatever it is. But I would recommend nothing when inventory, and learn from Doug's experience. Do not do the coffee.
And after that debacle, I ended up getting a automatic coffee machine, a quarter a cup. So
really,
that took care of it.
In what decade? In what decade?
It was a coffee machine that was
a quarter. How did you do that? Was that an outside vendor that you brought in?
It was an outside vendor. Yep.
Okay. And they came and collected
they came in,
they filled it up.
You basically leased, they were making their money on the actual product. So for them, and I spoke to them about not paying for the machine. So they put the machine in for nothing. Mm-hmm. And I basically covered my cost of the coffee by having people pay a quarter per cup. And so
did they actually use it?
And they used it. Yep.
Look, I don't know what kind of cup of coffee you get for a quarter, but it sounds like a questionable situation. Any coffee that comes out of a machine, except for Doug, have you seen these new coffee machines at the new gas stations where it's like, touch screen and it spits out coffee with espresso and
quality? Oh yeah. No,
is it QT that does it? Or racetrack?
Most of them that I've gone into now do it.
Wow.
And yeah, they provide. Look, it's all about the bean. This is not 1970 anymore. We're not taking tablespoons of Sanka and putting them in hot water.
But how do they do it if it's in a machine and you're putting in a quarter? How do they keep the coffee fresh?
The machine, well, they keep the beans in, and then they're ground and expelled right then and there when you press the button.
Oh,
the grinding process.
So the coffee was actually being ground
when you press the button, it's coming whoop, and it grinds it.
Man.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
Demi, I hope that answers your question. Always do whatever you can. That makes sense. Logistically makes sense. And it's just not going to wear you out, and add a lot of time or burden to your personal training business, but always seek ways to
I would add to that the size of the size of your facility. I remember I had over 5,000 members. And so it really didn't make sense. I guess if you have 20 clients or 30 clients and you're in a boutique type of training scenario, I don't know, but that would probably change the logistics of doing something like coffee, for instance. So that may be something else to kind of consider.
Yeah, for sure. And that does definitely change the game. Okay, so we're going to bounce over to Johnny Gonzalez. Johnny, I'm going to send you a thing here. All right, big guy, tell us what you got. You got some questions for us? See here.
Come on, Johnny.
Johnny, you there? All right. So,
hey guys, I'm here.
There he is.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, Chief?
Just had to make a grand entrance. You guys know how it goes.
Yeah, you always do. You always do.
All right, guys.
All right. So tell us what you got.
All right. So this one's from Amy Modell from Florence, Oregon. Her question is, do my clients benefit more from training in higher elevations? And then she goes on to write, like in the mountains above 2,000 feet.
Say the first part again.
So do my clients benefit more from training in higher elevations?
The short answer is Yes.
I have a
Depends
feeling
on-
Doug has got a story about Colorado Springs coming.
Depends on the elevation. And the standard crossover is approximate. Well, and it depends on the person, but approximately at about 2,000, 2,500 feet, you start to see some physiological changes in the makeup of the blood system. So you'll start to see increases in red blood cell count. It's not going to be really significant until you get to fairly higher elevations. But Colorado Springs, which is where I was I spent a term of my service in Colorado Springs, you're at approximately 5,800, almost 6,000 feet above sea level. That is a significant change in elevation. And we know that there is a inverse relationship to the concentration of oxygen in the air, which is always lower at higher altitude, and the total amount of red blood cell concentration in a human's blood system. And so, yes, if I train at altitude, it's one of the reasons why athletes train at altitude. And that's why one of the Olympic training centers, the one that's most well known, is in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And so, yes, cardiorespiratory athletes. Now, will everybody benefit? That's dubious whether or not an Olympic weightlifter is going to have any profound changes. But for sure, respiratory athletes, those individuals looking to increase their VO2 max, for sure need to train at altitude, especially if they're going to be competing then back down at close to sea level. I remember after I did my tour of duty in Colorado Springs, and that was for a little over a year, basically running 6 days a week, did the Pikes Peak run, which is a 14,000 foot
beast
peak. Yeah,
Wow.
14. Yeah, it's one of the 50 14ers in Colorado in that area.
Yeah.
When I came back down to Florida, which is essentially sea level, it was actually pretty remarkable to be able to run without being out of breath. Why? Because my red blood cell concentration had increased substantially for the time I was out there. So yes, 2,000 feet is better than sea level for sure. The total amount of oxygen decrease percentage-wise in the air at 2,000, not really sure, but anybody would benefit at altitude for sure if they are already significantly well trained. And that's one of the things we always got to keep in mind. If I take the average client and simply throw them up to altitude, will they change physiologically? Sure, but they might start spitting up pieces of their lung as well because they're not in good cardiorespiratory condition. So the short answer is yes, but there are kind of levels at which the adaptation to increase red blood cell count or concentration, serum red blood cell count, happens, if I remember correctly, around 2,500, somewhere around there. Could be a little bit lower, but that has to be consistent, by the way. You can't just go train one day and then come back down and train and expect for adaptive responses. That requires a fair amount of training time, literally weeks, if not months, to acquire this adaptive change in red blood cell concentration.
Cool. All right, Johnny, we will come back to you. I know you've got a list of different questions. I'm going to try and knock through the ones that we have here. But I hope that was helpful. I know that, Doug, you had mentioned that. I remember you talking about the Colorado Springs and the training camp and all that. Wasn't there a time where, what's his name? The cyclist, Armstrong. When Armstrong actually trained for an extended period of time at elevation, wasn't that like one of his main training concepts?
Oh yeah. Any of these endurance athletes are going to, at some time of the year, depending on the periodization schedule, however they're doing it, they're going to try and get some altitude training, now there's other ways to increase red blood cell concentration without training at altitude.
So would they do the blood doping before or after?
Well, again, it depends on the athlete.
Well, just in general,
I've known athletes that don't do altitude training. I've known cyclists. I've known these individuals. They don't do altitude training because they simply don't have they don't live in those areas and they don't have the ability. Now, of course, they're wearing the masks that will decrease overall volume of air coming in, which can have an adaptive change. Don't recommend using those at all. But that's my own personal opinion. So what they'll use generally, blood thickening.
So
blood thickening
are we all increasing our endurance by wearing these masks, restricting the oxygen? Look, I'm not.
No.
Listen, everyone, I'm just messing. I'm just playing.
No, but altitude training is it's a very effective.
Yeah,
it's very effective. And if you live there and you train there, then your body adapts in all venues. In other words, your body adapt. I remember going up to Colorado Springs for the first day, and I had to go to sleep. We had to sleep 12 hours. Why? Because literally living in a low oxygen environment 24 hours a day is itself going to create the adaptive response. There's natives.
You know what else it does? You know what else it does?
What's that?
The air is so thin. It's so dry. It gives you a nosebleed.
Yeah, it could do that too.
You ever have one of those in high altitude?
No, because I always vazzed up my my nose, but
I was supposed to do that. But when we'd go skiing, okay, it was very often out in Park City, Utah. There's a couple of mountains, 10,000 feet as at the top. And I just remember I had an itch or something, and it was just an itch. And basically I get a nosebleed because it was so
busted a blood vessel. It was so
and
dry.
I remember going down the first few times and being, really winded.
But you stuck it out, didn't you? Were you doing this?
Dude, I just let it drip right on the ground. I just left a trail.
Of course you did.
Me. Okay. All right. So let's keep this train going. Frano Danella in Duluth, Minnesota.
Duluth.
How often should I look to sponsor my gym at different events? High school games, town events, corporate get-togethers.
Wow.
Frano, that's a great question. Where's Frano at? Frano, if you're out there, you need to jump on here. We need to talk. So here's the deal. Today, if it's to, really promote the business, it's just with this technology, it's so easy with Facebook and Instagram and Google that we really don't do those type of things anymore. Frano, that's just the reality. It's like, if you want to do it, I'm going to tell you that, if you're in a small town, you just want to build a relationship with the community. That's what that's for. That's great. But to build a business or to generate leads and generate interest, today we're doing it in such a way, so much more efficiently, that we can just launch an ad. It's really pretty simple. And you can do it with a $10 a day budget, like a really small budget, and reach 50 times more people than going to a high school game or a town event or a corporate get together. I'm not going to say don't do those things, but if you're limited on time and you could reach many more people in the same amount of time, and your goal is to build awareness or generate leads, then why would you? Other than because you want to, because you enjoy it, because you want to build a relationship with the community. That's the only reason I would recommend that. Honestly, I think to some degree, if you advertise properly, you can build a community with the people that join your facility and serve them really well. And then that goes out into the community, and they tell people in the community that you work really hard and that you care for them and that you're serving them and you're helping them and you're getting results. And that comes back. I promise you, just do it day in, day out, and it will come back. And so when you ask, this question, how often, only do it if you really enjoy that type of thing. If you like networking, if you're a B-type personality and you just got to be social and get out there, then do it because you enjoy it. but I don't want you to think that you're doing it because it's the most efficient way to grow your business or to get the word out there. It's just not today. You've asked me that question 15 years ago. I would say go to as many as you can every day if you can, but not anymore. Doug?
Wow. Hey, I used to put lead boxes in.
Oh my gosh. Did you just say lead box?
I used to use. Yeah, that was the level that we played at.
You're bringing back some fun memories.
Dude, yeah, lead boxes. So
Subway?
Yeah.
Did you put it in the local Subway?
It's funny.
Sandwich
I
shop,
probably had 50 different retail outlets, and I had my assistant manager every Monday morning.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, and she came, but boy, we got some leads.
So for those of you that not sure what a lead box is or never heard of a lead box, it's a little container. Back in the day, they had them in acrylic and they also had them in paper, cardboard. And so you put this little box, and they still have them out there, I know, but most have never put one out. But in the health club business and the personal training business years ago, we put these lead boxes out. We'd get like 10, 20 of them. We'd have a sheet of paper with all the addresses and the locations. And you put little tear off tickets that would have their name, have a little line for their fitness goal, their phone number, and not even the email at that time, but ultimately ended up being their email. And it would say, enter for your chance to win a free personal training session or a free month membership or a free program. And ironically, everyone that entered won. Like, so
dude, don't give away the.
All right, well, come on. These are trainers. So we'd pick up the box and there'd be like 10 tickets in there for people that would fill out. And we'd call them and we would say, hey, Susie, thank you so much for entering, to win a month of personal training. And I'd like to tell you that, that you won and I'd like to invite you in and you get this, we did all kinds of lead boxes, from free month, free session, free body fat testing. That was a popular one. Drop your name if you want to get your body fat measured, all different ones. But but now lead boxes are on websites. Lead boxes are on landing pages, and they're literally called lead boxes, where you click a button, a box pops up, and you fill out a form. That is now the 2021 lead box. So you better have lead boxes out there. It's just a different form.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's my take on it.
Doug, anything else on community events?
Dude, you nailed it. Nailed it.
All right. Let's keep this moving right along. And I'm going to bring Johnny back in just a minute. So Reggie Walker from Phoenix, Arizona. He asks, do I treat a client with a smaller body frame at a different intensity than a client with a bigger one? For instance, a 5-foot male versus a 6'3" male. Interesting. That's an interesting question. And I think I've got an interesting answer for you.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So, look, I try to help trainers over the years, like, understand that. Well, what? Come on. That even if you said this was a 5-foot female and a 6'3" male or whatever the case is, the training intensity is, and the programming is based on the goals that they have. That's really it. Like, what are their goals? It really doesn't matter what their body frame. Reggie, this is a great question. I'm glad you asked this, and it's interesting, but no. So you don't change it based on their body frame. You don't even change it based on if, I trained somebody the other day that was, 18% body fat for a female. That is lean. She was an animal. And then, a guy that was 50% body fat. And, the intensity level that we train at is just relative to their goals. And when I was training the guy, he might feel like I'm training at the same intensity level as how I was training the girl that was an animal. But the reality is I might have only did a 30-second set, for example, with the guy, and a 2-minute set with the girl, but the intensity level felt the same to the both of them. So anyhow, the body frame doesn't play a role in the intensity level. It really is based on the goals that the client has. So for example, if somebody's trying to lose body fat, it's and that's their main goal, and not actually increase lean body mass. You measure most of the time they want to increase their lean body mass. I'm giving this to you as an example, but let's say they don't want to. You measure their body fat percentage. They've got good muscle. They've just got a lot of body fat. I'm not going to go really heavy with them, for example, and I'm going to focus on interval training to do fat loss. That's going to be the target that we use as far as intensity level, and of course where they are. So if somebody's just getting started, you meet that client where they are. If somebody's been training for, several years, you meet them also where they are. Doug, add to that for us, please.
I don't even remember the question. No, so here's the deal. The body frame is not a biometric variable that we use in any scenario, whether it's assessments, screening, or training. So again, there's many different biometric variables that one can use. The size of the frame is simply not one of those. So just as you were saying, the question is what's their physical output? What's their capability when they're training? And what is their goal? So if it's a new client totally detrained, that determines whether they're short, tall, heavy, thin, whatever the case is. That's going to be more determinative of the actual training that we're going to do with them than the fact that they are short or tall, quote, big frame. It's funny. We still see those designations from the 1980s when I first started getting into this, which was this ectomorph, mesomorph. What's the other one? Endomorph.
Yep.
And they still use that today. I'm like, we haven't done stuff with, those are just not biometric variables that we consider in the screening, assessment, and training process for the average person. They are not valid biometric parameters that help us in any way, shape, or form to determine nutrition or exercise programming.
I was just thinking this brilliant idea, this brilliant example of me and you training. Look, Doug and I can do the same exercises. Now, of course, he trains at a much greater intensity level than I do. And I'm just trying to keep up the whole time. But, we enjoy the same exercises, and regardless of
although I am shorter than you. So I guess,
maybe a little bit. But look, at the end of the day, I hope that answers your question, Reggie. Great one. Thanks for bringing that to us.
Question.
Keep them coming. Okay. I'm going to bounce back over to Johnny. Johnny is like waving his hand over here. Like he is just chipping at the bit over here. He's just like, get me back in here. All right, Johnny.
What you got?
Johnny, tell us what you got.
I think you guys are going to really like this one. It's from Daniel Reese from Sandpoint, Idaho.
From who?
Daniel Reese from Sandpoint, Idaho.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
His question is, should I have my own podcast or live stream like you guys to help boost my marketing? Keep in mind, I'm an independent trainer. So how should I market myself best?
Get on the show here.
That is, yeah. Look, if you want to plug, you just jump on here and we'll put you out there. So yes, absolutely. Look, if you could bring value to others, no matter how that is, no matter what that is, I highly recommend it. I will tell you, in my entire career, the thing that actually helped me the most was a YouTube series. It didn't cost me anything. Once I got a little steam behind me, I actually had sponsors, and there's this thing, and it was a learning lesson for me, because you think, at least I did at that time, like I had this proprietary, I was helping people lose body fat at very high amounts. Like I was getting incredible results. My average client was losing 8 to 12 pounds of body fat per month. And I had over, a few dozen people that had lost 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 20 pounds. And I felt like I had something that others didn't, and I wanted to keep it to myself. And unless you hired me, and that was just such the wrong thinking. I wish I understood differently earlier on. But once I opened up and I started sharing really simple tips that I was sharing with those clients that were getting results, what I found was those people, once I shared these fitness and nutrition tips, they wanted more. So I think it was Daniel Reese. Daniel, if you have sound tips that you think would help others, what I found is that when I share those tips, they didn't actually take those and say, oh, I got everything that I need now. They got and applied some of it. And I got feedback like, hey, thank you. That really helped. But mostly they asked for more and they inquired and they wanted to train. So I think if it's you and that's something that you enjoy, now that's the other thing, some people want to do a podcast or get the word out there, and it's not their personality. It's not for them. Doug and I do this, honestly, we just enjoy it. We enjoy talking about personal training. This is our life's work, and we enjoy helping trainers. So we're hoping that some trainers out there are listening and they're getting some value from this. And this is not work for us. I mean, we look forward to this every Wednesday at 2:00 just to be able to answer some of your questions. So I hope that helps, Daniel. It's a great question. I think you should share. I think you should do a podcast if that's your personality, and you can do it and enjoy it, and you could bring value to others. Absolutely. Doug, what say you?
But he asked it in a really specific way from a marketing perspective. So I like the fact that he asked it within that context. And the answer to that is, well, look, what have you already developed the other basic marketing strategies that you would probably want to have in place first? Sure, do it. Have fun doing it. Enjoy it. Provide value to others. But just make sure that from a marketing perspective, you have your basics in place first. You would not want to do what you're seeing right now as your main marketing strategy.
Right. No, that's a great point, Doug, for sure. So Daniel, what he means very specifically in that regard is, do you have a really good website? Do you have a landing page? Are you running Facebook ads, Instagram ads? Are you running Google ads? Do you have a great place to train them? Do you have, all the basic kind of marketing stuff set up? And if you do, and this is just an addition and something that you think that you would enjoy, then by all means, I'm giving you the green light.
A thumbs up.
And matter of fact, send us an invite. Let us check it out. Let us check out your first one. Maybe we could even join in on you. So that's a great question. Okay, I'm going to bounce back over, Johnny. I'll hit you back in just a minute. So we've got another question. This one is from Amy Rager. Amy Rager from Somerset, Kentucky. Ooh. Is it better to expand my business and open up more gyms in state first? More gyms in, I'm guessing she meant this state first before opening in neighbor states, or does it matter? Does it not matter? Oh man, this is a great question. You're man, you are just
great question.
Yeah, you're giving me some memories here. So to answer your question, I will tell you this, is that, man, once you cross state lines, it's a whole nother game. I literally, when I had opened up our first location in Florida, we ended up, I think we got to 12 in the state of Florida. And then we entered Georgia. And after Georgia, we entered, I think it was Texas. But long story short, we ended up in a bunch of different states. And as soon as you cross that state line, oh man, you've got all new filings, you've got new business registry. If you're going to run your business properly, it is a pain in the butt. If you're going to do it properly, the amount of regulation is just different. It just really is. So it's not like it's not like you're a company and you just have employees in other states. No, you got to do certain filings in those states. And so to answer your question, there's not even a doubt in my mind. I think I would have definitely focused more on Florida before moving into others. Now, with that being said, I wouldn't be in Atlanta, Georgia, if it wasn't for, taking on other projects in the other states. But there's so much business in, your home state that I don't know. Some of these companies that go into, like, even us, like we talked about this with the school, we've got people inquiring with the school from, not only different states, we've got students right now in every state in the US, but we have people that have been inquiring in other countries. And as much as we want to serve those other countries, we haven't even helped the amount of folks that we want to help in the US and even Canada. And we've got students all over the place. So it just doesn't make sense. And we talked about this recently about where we're going to put our energy and effort. And we said, look, we need to focus on the US and Canada first, and then kind of focus on these other places. But so I hope that answers your question. Definitely stay as close and keep it as simple as possible. And just know that if you have one location, for example, in one state, and then you cross lines, 9 times out of 10, you have completely different business license, completely different state registration, completely different tax return filings, completely different Department of Labor file. I mean, I can go on and on. At one point, I had 4 people full time in my office doing nothing but payroll and regulatory stuff with the management company, because there was that much work going on. So anyhow, it's all relative. If it's very profitable, it's a good business, then. But I hope that answers your question, Doug. I know you saw us do some of that, and I think you even came to the office a couple of times to visit.
If you're busting at the seams because there ain't no more business in Somerset and then in Kentucky in general, I guess you have no option but to branch out into other areas. But my assumption is that there's a whole lot of business availability right there. Now, I know Somerset. My brother actually used to live in Somerset, Kentucky.
Really? I didn't even know there was. I've never even heard of Somerset.
Not the biggest. It's not the biggest, but yeah, there's a lot of business in those areas. Yeah.
Look, okay, it's 2:00. I've got to do my lounge response.
Boy.
Can I do my? So
you can
just check this out too. Okay, I share this in the live course. A lot of trainers think like go into the big city and make the big bucks. It's just not the case. If you were to ask me right now, where should I go to start my personal training business? If you haven't started yet and you have options, I will 99% of the time tell you not to go into the city. I'll tell you to go into the suburb. I'll tell you to go into the small town. And I'll tell you from experience, because I've had many locations inside the city, different cities, and then also in the suburbs and in small towns. And almost all of the locations in the small towns, the clients appreciated our service so much more. They showed up to their appointments more. They enjoyed the training more. And believe it or not, it was much more profitable because it was less competitive. In a lot of the small towns, there's a lot less competition. You come into a big city, come on, there's guys and there's girls that have been personal training businesses there for a long time. And that's what you're going up against. I'm not saying don't go into the city, but I'm saying if you have a choice, move to Podunk. We had a location in a little town called Opelika, Alabama. I'd never even heard of this place. Okay. But when I showed up, I was like, this is fantastic. They were so excited to see us, and we absolutely crushed it. Dothan, Alabama. I'm not picking on Alabama, by the way. If you're from Alabama, I love Alabama, but Dothan, Alabama, we showed up to Dothan, Alabama, and we were like, it was like, whoa, this incredible programming. You come into a big city and there's a lot of big fish. Just know that. So there's what we call strongholds. Come into Atlanta, and you're going to see us. We're going to have some fun. But the bottom line is that a lot of people think not just crossing state lines to expand, but they think go into the big city. Don't do it. If you have a choice, go into a small town. There's so many reasons why. Payroll is less because people need less to live. Okay. They don't have huge rents to live. Your rent for your facility is going to be much lower. So you have a much better margin. I mean, you could literally pay half the rent for the same size space in a small town as you would in the city. I hope that helps. But that made me think of that when you were talking about crossing crossing state lines. Okay, we've got another question here from Norman Hand in Buffalo, New York. Norman Hand is asking, which helps my client recover better, an ice bath or time in the sauna? Whoa, it's a good
And
one.
just
Norman.
Just the thought of an ice bath is already just
Norman,
really uncomfortable.
have you ever done it? Well, first off, have you ever done one of these cryotherapy?
No,
You've never stepped in one of those?
I've never done a cryo. I've done like half body ice water.
Okay. Guess what we're going to do next week?
Oh no.
You know what? It's so funny. We're going to need it. Next week, we are going to need it. So when you're in town, I'm telling you, one of the nights after the live course, after we get done training all day, we're going to book a reservation and we're going to go do some cryotherapy. There's a place that opened up right down the road from the house, by the way.
What's his name? Norman?
Norman.
Rule of thumb, heat before, cold after your workout. Warm up, cool down, then cold.
Ice bath, my man.
Is.
Ice bath is the answer to that question.
Ding, ding, ding. Ice
Man,
bath. Yeah.
Send us a photo. Keep this, guys. Help us keep this talk interesting, would you? Send us a photo in the ice bath with clothes on or with shorts on. Okay, of course, but yeah, send us a photo in the ice bath. That will. Doug, can you help explain to some of the folks why that is that basically ice bath or this cryotherapy does assist with recovery?
It's just the reduction in inflammation or exercise induced inflammation. That's really all it is. There are other physiological responses that you'll get from cold, but it depends on the temperature. So at some point, regenerative responses start to slow down. There's reduction in the damage caused by the inflammatory response, even though inflammation is technically an important part of recovery. It's the high level of inflammatory response that occurs that is probably not necessary. And so normally the ice bath is what allows for this speedy reduction in the inflammatory response, which simply allows for a more speedy back to exercise scenario. So I can train faster, right, after my workout.
Now, let me ask you this. What about these folks, and I've done it and have really enjoyed it. Not that often, but I've done it where you do the Epsom salt bath. You're sore after a long hike and you're doing an Epsom salt bath. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, again, the recovery, whatever recovery modalities are comfortable for you. Again, we're really, when we talk about these sort of, I wouldn't say tricks, but these tools that you have in your tool belt really started from high level athletes that were looking for very, very minor differences in their already substantial.
Are you saying that processes.
In many ways you are.
Okay.
I'm
not sure what that means, but so let me ask you this.
Those modalities of recovery are fine if you like to use Epsom salts. Now, if you want to know what the actual,
but the ice comes
actually
after.
Happening physiologically, yeah, normally, depending on the level of inflammatory response and damage that has been inflicted upon the body through the training, then yes, you would immediately try to reduce the inflammatory response and the total load of leukotrienes and things like that are being thrown into the body. You would ice everything down, which is going to slow the metabolic response. And so anything that is actively metabolically active is going to slow down, right? So that's kind of it's a shotgun. Remember, ice is a shotgun approach to recovery. I'm not saying that everybody should do it, but very high level athletes who put a very high level of stress on their joints in particular, and their muscles will probably benefit from some sort of cryogenic type or ice therapy that will reduce that inflammatory response. But you can't do it once. That's the idea, is you don't just get out of a workout and sit in an ice bath and that's it, you're done. No, it requires additional recovery modalities. Now, if after that, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours later, as additional recovery, additional recovery modality, then you could take a hot bath if you wanted to. What Epsom salts do is, because it's magnesium sulfate, I think it is magnesium sulfate, it's a salt. So it increases the concentration of the water outside of your body. And so now you have a concentration gradient. That's why you don't put a tablespoon of, I hope everybody knows when they do an Epsom salt bath, they know how to do it. You don't put a tablespoon of Epsom salts in your bath. Do you know how much I use?
Like 5 pounds.
The bag. The bag. I literally take the bag and pour the whole bag. What does that do? Well, now the concentration of salt is so high outside of my body that there's a concentration gradient that is going to almost force fluid to be pulled out from under, subcutaneous fluid to be pulled out. Again, it's got to be hot and you got to be sitting in there for a long while. I'm not telling people to do that, by the way. I'm just saying that's what I do. If I'm taking an Epsom, so there's a reason why these modalities can be effective. But if you're putting 2 tablespoons of Epsom salt, you're better off drinking it. Don't do that either.
Please do not.
Don't
follow that recommendation. Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. Thank you for that. And Norman, I hope that helps answer your question. So we're going to jump back over to Johnny. But before we do, Doug and I had a conversation the other day. I wanted to talk a little bit more about and share. I thought it would be helpful for some of the trainers out there. We're talking about, Doug, if you remember, we were talking about where, some trainers do not get the results with the clients. They're not getting the results for the clients. So the client is hiring them to lose 10 pounds or lose 40 pounds or lose 50 pounds. In 2-3 months in, the client's lost 5 pounds or, is just not making the changes. And you and I both talked about, how important it is for personal trainers out there that are, and it's hard because what we talked about was for the new trainers that haven't gotten the results yet, or haven't worked alongside another trainer, or haven't trained themselves at a level to feel the difference in their own body. And we talked about some of the trainers that we've worked with in the past that have been really great trainers, or also people that, they trained regularly. They trained for a long period of time. They know what the exercise feels like. They know what it looks like and all that good stuff. But it was also the trainers that actually believed that they could actually change their clients. And you have some trainers out there that they want to change their clients. They have a certification and some training. They want to, and they know that exercise is good. And they know that they, if they get their clients eating healthy, but they have this limited amount of belief in whether or not they're actually going to take a client that said, hey, look, I'm going to hire you as my trainer. I want to lose 20 pounds of body fat, and actually carry them through that. And I thought that was really important. And, I thought that we could talk about things that could help trainers out there understand. And look, until you get that first result, until you get when you have that first client that has lost 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 50 pounds, the game changes. It really does, because then you're approaching these other clients with so much confidence that the clients feel it. And when they feel your confidence that you're going to get them results, they take more action. And we have found this over and over again, where clients that believe, like we look at these different things, and we have goals, we have belief, and we have action. And what we found, right there, is the clients, they all have a certain, your board is much better for this. They all have the goals. The clients have these goals, but why is it some of them take an action at a totally different level following the meal plan and doing cardio on their off days when they're not training with you? Well, it's because of the belief, and they're getting that from you. So they have the same goal, but they're taking totally different action. It's because whether or not they believe that they're going to lose that 20 pounds, that 50 pounds. And if they don't believe it, I met with a guy the other night. It just drove me nuts. He'd been a client for several months, and it was clear he did not even believe. He was going through the motions, but the client didn't even believe that he was going to lose 50 pounds. The guy's got 50 pounds to lose. I'm not going to work with him as a trainer until I know that he believes that he can do that. And I think for trainers out there, it's whether it's the fake it until you make it concept, where you just have to believe that you're going to achieve the goals with that person, and you stay committed and have a high level of conviction. I don't know, but we need to help trainers, Doug, with that, because giving people high fives and helping them feel better and improving their endurance and all those things are great. But when somebody comes to you and they've got 30 to 50 pounds to lose, you got to help them lose the 30 to 50 pounds. You can't just keep saying, hey, look, your body composition, you're putting on muscle. Of course they're putting on muscle. But if they've got 30 to 50 pounds to lose, their body weight has got to come down. So anyhow, Doug, what can you add?
Do you remember in the, what do you normally say back in the day? We used to call them the good old days. Remember when you would go to the gym? I don't know if you even worked out. Well, I know you worked out. Remember you always had a training partner?
Of course.
Remember you had a training partner?
A spot.
Not just that. That was your training partner. You met that individual on Mondays for chest. You met them on Tuesday for whatever. And you were a team, right? You were a team. And I'm not going to not show up. And he's going to hold me accountable, right? Not just for the training, but for the lifestyle that we both said, boom, we're going to live this lifestyle. You're my training partner. We're going to, well, now wait a minute. In today's day and age, the clients that we're dealing with, they don't have they don't have quote training partners. They have personal trainers, but that's not the only issue. The issue is that the trainer needs to think like my old training partners used to think, which is that, no, I'm not going to accept that level of training that you're doing. I'm not going to accept that level of nutrition that you're living in. Right? I'm not going to accept that. The demand that I have on my client is something that for sure I have to feel myself. So the client doesn't have belief. I get that. But I, as the trainer, I have to have the belief, and that has to flow over almost emotionally intense. Now, I can be pretty intense. When it comes to training, I can be very intense. And when it comes to people wanting something, I can be very intense. And sometimes that's exactly what trainers need. So if you're starting to train, if you are a new trainer, man, you got to tie your sneakers, pull up your pants, and you got to get on top of your clients and make sure they understand how important it is that they actually do what you're recommending that they do. And back that with some intensity and passion that allows your client to go, whoa, oh, I guess that's pretty important. Yeah, if you want to die of diabetes, if you want to see, those are the things where,
dude, you always got to take it to another level. Like,
dude, if you're a trainer, man, you got to give people.
Look, guys, Doug hit it right on. He hit it right on the money. And we're going to leave you with this. And Johnny, I apologize. We're not going to be able to get to any more questions. We'll pick back up next week. But check this out. We're going to leave you with this. And I think Doug did hit it right on the money in the fact that when the client feels that it's so important to you, and it has to be, if it's important to you that they reach the goals that they've hired you for, if it's important to you and you make that very, very important, and you show that to them, and you take the time, the effort to do the things, to follow up with them and check on things and give them tips and suggest, they're going to make it important. They're going to make it more important for themselves, because they, like Doug said, they're going to say, wow, this must be important. So we're going to share more tips each week on helping you help others. That's critical for us. We want you to be trainers out there that are, making a change, not just training people, not just giving high fives, not just playing great music, but actually helping the client believe in themselves to get the goals that they hired you for. They sat down at that table and they told you that they wanted to lose body fat, improve their, whatever it is. And we want you to achieve those goals. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in this week. We're going to conclude here. Thank you so much. Every Wednesday, 2 p.m. We look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. See ya. Bye.
See ya.